Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg. Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to do a full review of Tisell Marine Diver. Tisell Marine Diver is essentially a copy or an homage of Rolex Submariner. Let me tell you some of the specs of this watch. We have a ceramic bezel, a Miyota 9015 movement, of course hand winding and hacking. We have a super luminova lume, and we have a sapphire crystal, and all of this for $220 US. I've had this watch for about a month now, wore it on my wrist straight for a week. So is it any good? Let's get into the review. So here's the Tisell Marine Diver. Tisell is a small South Korean company. I believe all the manufacturing is actually done in China, but their head office and the watches are shipped from South Korea. Tisell specializes primarily in homage watches. This watch here being a Rolex Submariner Homage. Now people feel differently about homage watches. Some people like them and some people hate them and can't stand them, and I can certainly understand why. I personally don't mind a good homage. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at this watch here. Let's start with the dimensions. So we have a 40mm diameter, 13mm thickness, 47mm lug to lug, and the 20mm lug width that tapers down to about 16mm. So the case finishes then. We have all stainless steel case with a brushed finish on the case and on the bracelet, and the polished finish on the sides of the watch case and on the sides of the watch bracelet here. Speaking of the bracelet, all solid links with solid end links, and actually even screw-in pins. To be honest though, these screw-in pins are not of the best quality. In fact, just wearing this watch a few weeks on my wrist, I already had to tighten them once because they came a little bit loose. So just keep that in mind, and if you do pick up one of these watches, I'd recommend changing these screw-in pins for something a little bit more sturdy and a little bit higher quality. Now the clasp, on the other hand, is done really well. Of course, this is a direct copy from the Rolex Submariner. Easy to operate, very smooth, and very secure and flush on the wrist. Now it already picked up some scuffs and some scratches just from a couple of weeks of wear. I didn't do anything crazy with this watch. I took it to the gym a couple of times, some light cardio, a little bit of weight lifting, nothing too crazy. Walking the dog, running some errands, doing laundry, dishes, things like that. Working, going to the office, working on a computer. So a very light wear, but it already picked up some scuffs, and I'm guessing this is all from my computer table. So to open it here, very easy and actually very pleasant, and of course engineered clasp, done really well. Another thing that's done really well is a copy of this glide lock mechanism, again stolen from the original Rolex. So the way that it works, you unhook it here and you select the micro adjustment that fits you best, then you just snap it into place, and there you go. The idea is, of course, that you have it adjusted to your wrist, but if you go diving with this watch, because of course it's a diving watch, you would adjust it to fit over your wetsuit. All right, taking a bit of a closer look at the watch here, we have a ceramic unidirectional 120 click bezel. Now this bezel here is not the bezel that I originally had on this watch. So if you watched my unboxing video, you will remember that the watch arrived actually without the lume pip on the bezel. So I had to contact Tisell. They replied right away, and they actually shipped me a replacement bezel for the watch. However, that replacement bezel is sitting in a drawer, and this is not it, and I'll explain why in just a few minutes here. Here's what the bezel action sounds like. Fairly satisfying, no play on the bezel, aligns well, but it's not the best bezel action that I've experienced. In fact, it leaves much to be desired. Also, when I received this watch, the bezel was very tight, so after turning it a while and kind of wearing it in. Now it turns a lot smoother, but initially it wasn't turning that well. And that's kind of a quality control, I guess, oversight on Tisell, but for $220 US, what do you expect? All right, let's take a bit of a closer look at this dial here. It's a deep black enamel dial. The design is, again, copied from Rolex Submariner. The set of hands, the Lollipop seconds hand, the Mercedes hour hand, all copy from Submariner. The applied hour markings with applied lume. I'll pop a lume shot on a screen right now. As you can see, the lume is very bright and it does last for quite a while. I had no problem seeing what time it was at night, and it did last all night long. At the 3-hour position, we have date window with the magnifier or a Cyclops there. They did a great job on this magnifier. Magnifies us 2.5 or 3 times, I believe, just like the original should. I think a lot of homage watches get this part wrong, where the Cyclops would only magnify it 1 time or don't do any magnification at all. Now you can see that very smooth sweeping seconds hand motion. That's because, as I mentioned in the introduction of this video, the watch does have a Miyota 9015 movement, which is of course hand wound and hacking, 24 joules and 42 hours power reserve. Very well respected, and in my opinion, the best movement you can get in a watch for under $200. Also at the 3-hour position, we have a signed and screw down crown. Let me unscrew it and show you the hand winding as well as hacking. So hand winding, if you experienced the Miyota movement before, you know it's very satisfying, very smooth and fluid motion. If we pull it out once, we see a date change. So the watch of course has a quick set date, which is nice, and I shouldn't be changing the date right now because actually it should be at 6 o'clock. Oh well. And if we pull it out all the way, now we can see that the seconds hand has stopped ticking. That's of course because that's the hacking feature of this movement. And on the dial itself, in writing at the top, it says Tisell, underneath that automatic, and then Marine Diver, water resistant, 660 feet or 200 meters. It doesn't say anywhere on the watch that it's made in China, which is a plus or a minus depending on how you look at it. The watch does have a sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. It sits flat on top of this case, and of course it's scratch resistant. So what are some of the negatives of this watch? Because of course no watch is perfect, and this watch is nowhere close to being perfect. Well, first off, the quality control for Tisell. So as I mentioned before, I did have that problem with the bezel where I had to get them to ship me a new bezel for this watch because the lume pip was missing. But what I didn't mention, that a couple of days after I received my watch, I was setting the time and I pulled out the crown all the way, and actually the crown had broke off of the stem. I'll show a picture on the screen right now. So what I had to do, I had to contact Tisell again and tell them that that's what happened. They have asked me to ship the watch to them. I did that. The whole ordeal took around 2 weeks. So basically me shipping the watch from Canada to South Korea, them receiving the watch, fixing it and shipping it back. So that, as I mentioned, took about 2 weeks. However, a plus for the company, they were very nice about it. They fixed it right away, no questions asked, and they even paid for my return shipping. While the watch was in South Korea, they also replaced the bezel. So I already sent the watch to them and the bezel arrived to Canada. So of course now I have that spare bezel they sent to me as kind of a bonus. And if I ever scratch this bezel here, I have a replacement already. So yeah, the quality control is not that great because the crown broke off on the second day, and the bezel was without the loom pip. Another thing, actually, the crown in the original watch that I received was unsigned, but when they replaced the crown and sent it back to me, now the crown is signed. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I mean, why would it be unsigned initially and now it is signed? Who knows? It's a mystery to me. So another negative is the rotor noise. So let me bring it closer to the microphone. So I hope you can hear that. Yeah, so when you make any movements with this watch, you can definitely hear and feel the rotor spinning. That's just the movement. That's the way it is. Some people like it, some people can't stand it. I really like it, actually. I like that the watch has that fluidity to it. It's almost as if it's alive, and it has the ticking seconds hand, and it also has that rotor spinning, which I like. But of course, a lot of people might find that as being annoying and a bit of a negative. So another negative is actually this bracelet. As I mentioned, the bracelet itself is actually pretty good, and it's all solid links, which is nice, especially for the watch in this price range. But the way it falls off the watch is not done very well. So you can see how this link here, the way it's done and the way it curves, it doesn't look very elegant or refined. So again, that kind of gives off the value of this watch. The watch does look a lot more expensive than $200, especially if you look into all the specs that it has. But this here is a bit of a negative. Again, I'm just nitpicking here, but this is a review, so something to mention. And one last negative is actually the ordering process for this watch. So if you go on their website right now, chances are it will say that the watch is all sold out, and the price being listed at around, I think, $99,000 or something like that. So basically what you have to do, you have to contact Tisell directly. There is their email address at the bottom of the website. You have to put yourself on the waiting list for the watch, and in a few weeks when the watch becomes available, they will contact you. You pay the $220 for the watch, and the watch will be shipped to you. For me, it took around 6 weeks from the time that I originally contacted them to put myself on the waiting list to watch actually arriving to Canada. A lot of people don't want to wait that long for the watch, so you can find these watches on eBay from time to time. Of course, they're all used, so resellers like myself who bought it and didn't like the watch or just got bored of it are reselling it on eBay, and a lot of times it's actually more expensive than buying a brand new watch directly from Tisell, just because people don't want to wait that long to receive the watch. Other than those negatives, I can't think of anything else. I really like the watch. Again, the initial quality issues that I had were solved by Tisell, so thumbs up to them for solving it so quickly. But of course, it would be nicer if I didn't have those issues to begin with. I really like the watch. I like the quality. I think it's done really well. The specs are great, and the execution is all right. Again, for $220, all the finishes that we have and all the specs of this watch, it's hard to complain too much. But the best way I can describe this watch is it has all the specs, it has all the stats of being a fantastic watch. Just the execution is cut a little bit short. If it had a little bit of a nicer polishing, if it had a little bit more refinement on this bracelet, and of course the initial quality control, I think this watch could push that $500 mark easily. And finally, here's what the watch looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. As you can see, it fits really well. I like that the bracelet tapers in, so it's a little bit more comfortable to wear, and it plays really well in different lighting conditions because of that dial and the ceramic bezel. Alright guys, so that was my review for Tisell Marine Diver. Hopefully with this video, I helped you figure out whether you should pick one up or maybe save up for something else. Thanks for watching. Click thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel as I release new videos every Tuesday and every Friday. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.